must say that I don't think the last two speakers get out that much. I mean, they really do need to get out some more. And I had to laugh at young Gareth. His view of, he literally said this. He said, we've got to encourage the capital markets. We need a capital gains tax. That's exactly how he said. The answer to encouraging the capital markets is to tax them more. That's obviously the answer. How silly of me. Mr. Chair, he also suggested that the idea of taxing about a quarter of houses would reduce the investment in housing, whereas at the same time taxing 100% of businesses with a capital gains tax would increase the investment in businesses. I don't know how that is supposed to work, Mr. Chair. He also should have gone to field days last week, because he acted as if the primary sector doesn't innovate. He said that the primary sector needs to innovate more, not sell raw stuff overseas. Well, hello. The news is that actually that's what's happening. And for those of us that did go to field days, I myself was incredibly encouraged by the amount of investment in technology and innovation that's going on there with the assistance of organisations such as Callaghan Innovation. The farming industry is now very much a data-driven industry, and the members opposite should get out more and actually learn what's going on out there in the actual marketplace. But also, the other thing that I would note, is, oh, by the way, the whole Lanzatech rubbish, with the greatest respect, that R&D grants that they were entitled to in this country were more generous than the ones in the US. The reason they've gone to the US is actually what happened under Labor's watch, where the company was largely sold offshore while Labor was still around, and they hired a CE based in the Midwest of the US, and now she wants to put the company there. That's the extent of it. So actually a little bit of work, Megan, would be good in terms of before you pick your examples as to why things should happen. What is actually happening, Mr. Speaker, is a big increase in private sector R&D investment supported by Callaghan Innovation. We now have $142 million a year being co-invested alongside private sector companies in R&D growth grants, and the opposition still hasn't woken up to that because they're still harping on about the policy I think they've announced 7 times now and implemented once, which is the R&D tax credits, and they've got nothing more to say on innovation at all. That's the entire story on innovation since about 2007. Well, news, we're 2014. Something else a little fresh would be helpful, But the other thing I had to take up with the member opposite, Megan Woods, is the issue of this whole thing that companies actually having international investment is somehow bad for them. Because I can tell her that actually that's a normal part of the innovation process, is that some of the companies are eventually bringing international investors. And the good news about that, which Ms Woods has overlooked, the good news about that is that frees up capital to invest in more companies. So people like Sam Morgan and so on, who sold their Trade Me shares, have now invested in a whole range of other companies, and that's part of what encourages the ecosystem in New Zealand, Mr. Chair. And my definition of success in innovation is the increase in innovation that occurs in New Zealand, Mr. Chair, and that's what's happening right now in this country. We've had a big increase in R&D investment by businesses, and it's continuing to grow. We've had a big increase in exports by what is known as the high-tech sector, which is the ICT sector, high-tech manufacturing and medium high-tech manufacturing. That's increasing. That is a factual reality, Mr. Chair. And the interesting thing, speaking of the OECD, Mr. Hughes was saying that we're continuing to go down the OECD ladder. Well, I have some news for him, actually. We stopped going down the OECD ladder as soon as the Labor Greens crowd went out of office. We stopped, and actually we're now going up. So the former Prime Minister Helen Clark talked about being number 22 in the OECD for years, and nothing happened. And now suddenly we're at 20 going to 19 because of the work done by this government relative to other countries in the OECD. So, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, here we have a growing high-tech sector, which is in really good shape, with more and more companies listing publicly and more companies being seeded and growing. We have a big support of that from this new entity, Callaghan Innovation, and if the member, Ms Woods, is unsure of what it's for, I recommend this quite simple page with 5 bullet points on it. That would be a good summary for her to start with. And we are lifting the investment in New Zealand's technology companies, and the opposition needs to bring itself up to date, Mr. Chair.
question is that the report of the Education and Science Committee on the 2012-13 financial review of the Callaghan Innovation Research Limited be noted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Members, I understand that the next report that we're interested in is the Education and Science review of the Tertiary Education Commission. Colin King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a pleasure to talk about the achievements of the government.